made me nervous. Fuck, I
I
talk all the
know,
time.
right? What happened there? All right. So I am just tickled to be doing this interview with a very dear friend of mine. For those of you who are just joining us, maybe for the very first time, we always have something in the box below that lets you connect with our guests. We really welcome you if you would like, love, share, follow, subscribe. That makes such a difference. For those of us who are out here putting content for you out into the world, we love what we do, but certainly when we're able to further those messages, it makes such a difference. So thank you for taking the time to do that. Thank you to our host network. The Divas That Care Network puts on this Divas That Care idea. And it's around this whole idea of reclaiming the word diva. It's about making sure that we as women, especially as women, can connect, because we're such community beings, aren't we? So my guest today is, well, I know her as many different things, but today she's Anne. And Anne is coming to us from out east Canada. I'm pretty excited to be with her. She's always up to something. And every time we get together, it's like we try to smush, I don't know how long it's been, right? We just smush it all together. We're like, I think that's everything. Yeah. And thankfully, we're one of those beings that seems like we can just pick up wherever we left off, which I really appreciate. But I know, and you and your partner are up to a lot of amazing things right now, certainly in changing the world and bringing so much love to it, which certainly is a message that we're needing right now, especially as we're socially distanced, physically distanced. We're socially connected right now. I think we're more socially connected now than we ever been.
Before.
Every time somebody says we're social distancing, I'm like, heck no, social media is on fire right now. But anyway, without any further ado, Anne, I typically like it when my guests can just come on and share, their bio in their own words, because, and then we'll kind of go from there and let Spirit lead in terms of questions that we might discuss.
Where we go from here.
I know. And for my listeners, Anne and I enjoy going down rabbit holes and talking about just about everything under the sun. So we're both kind of chuckling when we're like, we're going to hit record. And neither one of us are really sure about where this is going to go. So hang on to your hats, people. This is going to be fun. And close yours.
So thank you. As I was prepping for this call, the biggest question that stood out for me is what's been my passion. So I didn't prep for this call primarily because most of my passion my whole life has been to speak from my heart. Mm-hmm. And so I've learned to trust and understand that when we're willing and able to come from that place of vulnerability in business, in life, in love, it's irrelevant, in all aspects of our existence, that's where the true growth and the true magic happens. And yet we're not pre-programmed or even preconditioned to live from that space. And so in full transparency, that was a very scary place for me. I've always had that inner knowing. But it's like anytime I actually spoke my truth or I shared what was coming from my heart, it was not always well received. Mm-hmm. And so I spent a lot of my life shutting that aspect of my inner existence, of my inner core down, not believing that humans could actually, or people could actually understand what it means to operate from that plane of existence or their plane of reality, which in the simple language I could say is love, but it's much more complex than that. It's this true place of, the words are so overused, but let's play unconditional love, neutrality, that I could spout before, but until you actually start to live that, you actually can't understand its power and depth. Mm-hmm. And so when I look back, it's always been that inner knowing, right? But how do you transmute that, or how do you actually play with that in this reality? And so it wasn't until I met my crazy divine partner on April Fool's Day, big joke, but not really, 2012, where I met the possibility that there would be divine sciences and technologies to help us let go and embody the soul more vastly into this human form. And there's no logic to that friggin' decision, because, I love him and he's handsome and all those things to me, but it wasn't about the dude, right? It was about the journey. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, that's kind of when people say, what do you share? I'm like, well, that's a loaded question, because I would almost say it's a way of life, right? in its own existence that you understand. And so thank you for even letting me express this, because in the time that we've been together, it's been more and more interesting. I'm not even going to say challenging anymore, for me able to express that, and get people to actually understand what it is that I'm sharing.
Mhm. Well,
Hmm.
and I know that you've got, a couple of websites and ways that people are going to contact you. And again, those will be, linked below so people can, find out more, connect with you guys directly because, and I've been a part of, mm, I think I knew your partner maybe a little bit before you did or right
Oh,
around the
before
same
me.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, before.
And he had certainly come into my world and brought a lot of change and healing. And I mean, we meet those people, right? Like I was saying to a friend yesterday that they are divine appointments. You can't miss them, right? You can't.
You don't want to
Yeah.
miss them.
You don't want to miss them, but yeah, and you end up where you're supposed to. And I remember when he started, talking about you, and a large part of it was this concept of love. And I've often said it's too bad that we only have one word for love. We really can't describe that. And as you were talking, I was thinking about different analogies, right? You can't give from, if the saucer's empty, you give from the overflow, right? You give from the saucer, not the cup, the saucer, the overflow, and what that means. And a few of the gals we've had on this talk before have often talked about the love or the self-love and how you speak to yourself first. And I know it's been a bit of a journey, like you said, that was so outside of what you knew it somewhere in
Yep.
here. But then things had to sort of conspire so that you could, right? Literally conspire.
Literally conspire. I think some days, I think I made the plan because it was an insane plan, but there is. And so one of the things over time that's become really important when we connect and share with people is to even teach and share this concept of surrendering to love. And it's almost funny given my background, because it was all about control, in the box, tax accountant, like to be, it was very boxed. And so to understand that we can create greater acceleration and greater growth and greater divine appointments, if we want to use that, or divine alignment, sometimes requires our ability to let go of the steering wheel. And for
Usually,
some
I
of
would say.
us, I would say always, but I'm creating a subtle space, right? For people to
Subtle,
go, what do
subtle.
you mean I'm not in charge?
Not at
Because
all.
you're
Not at all.
you're not. And so when we talk about conspiring, right, it sometimes I play with the fact that it's really our soul conspiring us to find the divine connections, the alignments, the friends, the businesses, the fun that really make our lives fulfilling. And if we're not listening, then it can get ugly.
Yeah.
And so I often say, well, if you're living in the ugly, then you must not be listening. Yeah, that's kind of what I've witnessed over time.
Yeah, I've observed in myself recently, and that, anxiety kicks in when I've missed an opportunity for me to be in integrity. And it might be as simple as agreeing with something that wasn't what I actually thought. And I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to make the other person uncomfortable, right? I'm a recovering people pleaser right here. And, right? Hello, sorry. Yeah, two hands. But yet speaking my truth comes very easily to me. It's just learning to stay there. And so I'll feel anxious and I'll think, why am I anxious? And I literally have to chase that back in my head. I'm like, was it this? No. Was it this? No. No. Oh my gosh, it was this. And sometimes it can be like 24, 48, 72 hours before. And then I can either clear it up, right? Cancel, delete, or actually physically have the conversation, set it right, make a plan to do whatever that is. And that's been like life-changing. And as you were talking about, so this love and this surrender, that's part of it. It's not, we're sent here to figure out, how to be we are perfect. We are enough. We already are love. We just get all muddled in this human suit, right? That's
The
a whole
huggy
nother,
suit.
the
Yeah,
huggy
that's
suit,
another
the
stick
huggy
for
suit. Yeah, exactly. That's another.
Well, it's funny, and what stood out for me when you said that, and it's been the largest awareness I've even had during this, intriguing time. Because you're right, we've been very much busier on some level, and yet not, because during this time, what's come is this deeper awareness that the example you gave, which stands out for me, is when I've not been in my truth, it's like I've gotten off my own bus. And so because of the people pleaser or whatever ingrained pattern exists in the human psyche or in the human form, we somehow believe that if we're not in that truth in all aspects of our reality, because we're not conditioned to do so, or collective consciousness, or wherever you want to play in, we're out of alignment. And that when you're really in tune and you get more in tune with yourself, it almost becomes physically uncomfortable, because you know that's not real for you. And I didn't realize over the years how much out of alignment I was. And so what I can say to anybody who's listening is find the people, the tools, the connections, whatever that is, that helps you align to truth for you. Not my truth, not somebody else's truth, not the collective's truth, because that's just interesting some days. Right?
That's the encore podcast right there. We'll go there later.
But it's more about you.
Yeah.
And so there are tools, people, technologies, whatever that is, to help you accelerate that ability to getting back to you. And that's not a good or bad thing. It's not a requirement, but it certainly makes life fucking happier. And that's really what it is about in the end.
Well, and I think so much of that, what's been coming up as you've been speaking, is that it's about feeling good. And, we know that our stomachs, right, our gut is that second brain. That's it. And, when we're chasing what feels good, not just what feels good, but what feels good, you know it. It's a yes or a no. There's no, you ask somebody and they hesitate. I'm like, you already know. Just, what are you pretending not to know? That's the thing. That's the thing you need to do. And I think about, for even myself and all the things that I haven't done, up until now, or haven't yet done, it's because I'm usually telling myself some BS story about how I can't, or I'm not there yet, or whatever. And what's been coming to me over and over and over again recently is like, nobody wants you to be perfect. Just, in fact, it's better if you're kind of stumbling around in the dark too. And, that's part of why I do these calls, and we hit record and we hit stop. And unless there's some big glaring blip in the middle, we are not editing it. We're not changing it. We're not pulling words out. We're not whatever, because I think right now people are hungry, for love. They're also hungry for what's real. They're hungry for real stories, real experiences, authenticity. They're hungry for people showing up and saying, hey, I'm here. It's been a little crazy lately, actually. I was saying to a girlfriend earlier, I said, I feel like, the universe, God, whatever you want to, like you said, whatever place you want to play in, picked me up by the scruff of my neck and went, sit. Stay. I don't stay well. Right? But the interesting...
You and me both. I've been confined to the house for 4 weeks. I'm getting a little squirrely in the moment.
And that's been interesting too. But a number of conversations that have happened through like this, right? You and I are connecting, and the number of things that have been birthed in this particular moment in time. People who said, well, I meant to put a program out there, but I never had time. I meant to do this. And I said to one of my girlfriends, I said, I always had time. I've been an entrepreneur for 12 years. I could have made time at any particular point in time, but I didn't until I felt like, I had time. And that's been something I've really been thinking about. I'm like, what else have I not made time for that I've been thinking I'd really like to make time for this? Well, I probably should just make time. So anyway.
And in that, I agree. The biggest thing that what I've witnessed is for those that are willing to make time for themselves right now, and that includes me. I've seen some of the biggest shifts and changes again that I've seen in a long time. And it's intriguing how this time has catapulted that, not just from a creation standpoint, but for those that are willing to go inside and just really dig and be themselves and nurture themselves and allow themselves to grow, because it is an exponential time of possibilities. There's a billion, I'm sure, chaotic nodes that are going on, because nothing is the same. And that's magical. Because if you want to come out the other side doing the same thing, fantastic. But if you don't, now's the time to play with that. And I really have seen that possibility. Even right down to getting on this call, it was like, no, just be yourself, let it happen, hair on the head, be real. And because I'm not wanting to, BS myself anymore. I really want to express what that is for me.
Yeah. And I know it's been having, been around you while you've been journeying to, who you are becoming today, and
Mhm.
seeing elements of that as you stepped into, your own knowing and your own. I mean, you offer a very unique gift to the world. And for those who want to know what that is, just go check out the links below and feel
Mhm.
that out. But it's been magical for me to watch you step into that. And, it's almost like, for such a time as this, right? We've been prepping for this for a while, and there's been parts of me that I'm like, oh, I see why that happened before, because now I'm ready for this. Wasn't that interesting? Like you said, did I set it up? Well, maybe, because clearly there was some stuff that was like lined up. But
Yeah.
this is typically the part of the call where I really open it up for the guest to say whatever they might want to say, or sort of whatever has been on their mind and their heart as they've been prepping for the call,
Yeah.
for who's ever listening or watching. So,
The only thing that when I speak to people is, and to be able to express the depth of that, if I could impart that inner knowing and understanding of what I've learned and what if you're listening to this, is it's time to stop following other people's truths.
mhm.
Um, Not your mama's truths, your dad's truths, your brother's truths. It's your truth. And sometimes that can be mildly uncomfortable. Uh,
Sometimes more than a
um,
little mildly.
well, I know I was going to go for the extreme, but I'm trying,
You're
it can be
trying.
uncomfortable
Yeah,
to
exactly,
be,
right?
gentle and diplomatic. But the reality is it can be very uncomfortable. And that discomfort is absolutely beautiful. If you can get anything out of listening to this, or during this time or in future times, is to absolutely willingly step into the uncomfortable, but the uncomfortable that's right for you, not by handing it to somebody else and having them do it for you, but empowering the real you to come out in whatever form that is for you.
Mhm. Amazing. So I think everybody listening can figure out why Anne and I enjoy sitting and having a conversation. And we really just let you in on one of those because we were having a wonderful time wandering through various thoughts that we've been having. And so, Anne, thank you so much for joining me today
Thanks.
to do this and letting us hit record on that, because that's cool.
Thank you.
And again, for anybody who's listening in, if you got some value out of this, connect with Anne or myself. Again, we're going to have all the links below. You do your part. Like, love, share, comment, subscribe. We love you for it. Makes a
Yep.
huge difference for us. And if something resonated with you, get in touch, because we are certainly here to serve. So thank you so much. And click next on the playlist, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Thanks, everybody.